everybody, and welcome to the Pretty Good Gaming Podcast, episode 99. Hello, a croeso I podcast rhif 99. My name is Mr. Gareth Evans. Joining me today is Mr. Henry. I swear I've forgotten something. Cooper.
Every single week we go through this song and dance where I think I've forgotten something. My audio's recording, my video's recording, got a little bottle of water, everything's going fine, but I'm convinced I've forgotten something. But I think I'm alright. I think I'm okay.
Well, if you're anything like me, I forgot my charger for my laptop a couple of weeks ago, and that wasn't edited out of the podcast, but we saw that happen. So it's usually me. I've got the track record, not you. So we'll see. We'll see if you've got everything together.
Because I have everything in this room that I need immediately in front of me. So if I can't see it, then I don't need it, and because nothing moves, everything's stays put. But I always have this sinking feeling that I'm missing something. But if I am,
we're fine.
Then screw it. It can't be that important.
Even your camera didn't falter last week.
It did a little bit. We've got a comment about that anyway. It did a little. We'll get back to that.
We'll jump into that in a short while. And just set us going this week. I'll just run through what we've got in store for the podcast. Firstly, I'm going to be discussing a news segment thing that popped up last Sunday. John Garvin has been chatting with David Jaffe on a podcast, and it was interesting. So the Days Gone 2 sequel and all that Faff debacle, we're going to be discussing that. Henry's been playing NieR Replicant, and he has his early impressions of that game. Embargo lifts today, so he's happy to talk about that with us today. After that, we've got some Discord questions from the Patreon supporters. Then we have, instead of a Triggered Fanboy comment of the week, we have the guy who obviously didn't listen to the video properly comment of the week.
I love those. There's so many. You can see him a mile away. It's like, oh, well, this. No, if you just waited and actually watched. I really believe that YouTube should, well, it wouldn't be good for engagement, but YouTube really should implement a way that you can only comment if you actually have watched the fucking video. Because otherwise, you just get dipshits. But then again, we have fun with it, so maybe it's not worth putting in that kind of system.
After that, we have other YouTube comments, which mainly from people who did watch our content thoroughly before commenting. And then finally, the bad dad joke of the week to finish off. But first up, opening Faff segment, Henry. What have you been up to this week other than NieR Replicant, which we're going to jump into in a while? Anything interesting? Did you get your hair cut?
No, I haven't, and I'm just wearing extra shit in it to keep it out of the way. This is the worst bit. I'll turn that way so they can have the microphone. This shit is back here is the biggest problem. I don't mind it long here because I can brush it back or whatever. It goes all like curly and horrible around the back, and it's a bit of a pain in the ass. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, to get it done this weekend because my barber's finally open. But he's one guy, and it's always super busy.
Yeah.
So we'll see. It's literally a roll of the dice whether I can get it done. Other than that, I haven't done anything. Got a little bit pissed at the weekend, maybe a little bit more than a little bit. I feel like I'm a teenager again because now that the world's opened up just a little, I can see people, and I've just been drinking every single time. I haven't drank like this since I don't know, I was probably like 18 or something. But other than that, I've been playing NieR Replicant. I've been trying to get trying to will myself to play more Outriders because I do enjoy it. But I just haven't gone back to it since ranting about it the other day. Yeah. I will eventually, hopefully, maybe. I don't know. Who knows? We've got plenty of comments on a few on the podcast and on the extract of that discussion saying, well, some quite supportively like, oh man, that sucks. I'm having no problems and I'm on this. But then there's some like, oh, well, I'm on this and I'm having no problems. You're just a dickhead. Well, no one exactly said that. But you know what I mean? Yeah. That kind of tone is like, oh, well, obviously it's your problem. Well, I'm like, well, I uploaded the footage. You can see the little frame counter down at the bottom. It fucking flip-flops all over the place. If it just held at 30, I'd get my console brain back on and I'll be like, fine. But it's so up and down, which is the problem. Anyway, my life has mainly been NieR Replicant. Well, I say my life. I only got it on Tuesday. I think it was Tuesday. I can't remember. But that's basically all I've been doing. There's nothing very exciting going on in my world.
Well, there you go. Let's just jump into the first segment then. Days Gone, right, are gone after the fans, as I've headlined this.
That's the big clickbait title, which is completely, just one portion of the actual story. Yeah. Which I saw so many people talking about it like that, and I was like, you haven't watched it.
So you need a little bit of backstory on this story. April the 8th, Jason Schreier at Bloomberg reports that Sony rejected a pitch for the sequel to Days Gone months after the launch, owing to the lengthy development and critical reception. Those 2 points are important for the conversation upcoming. And a side note, by the way, the change.org petition for Days Gone 2 sequel has now amassed over 67,000 signatures, so that's gaining traction. I think I signed it at 13,000 last week.
I mean, so I think signatures on a petition are largely a waste of time because they don't necessarily convert into actual sales, but 67,000 signatures is still a decent amount of people wanting to play this game.
It's signalling intent, that's for sure. The 67,000 more almost guaranteed sales, you could say. If you're willing to sign a bloody a petition, then you're probably willing to buy the sequel. Anyway, leave that in Sony's hands for now, and we'll see where that goes. So John Garvin, who many of you might remember as the Days Gone writer, one of the leads on the game, who actually no longer works for Sony. I think December the 1st last year he announced that he'd been away from Sony Ben for over a year. He recently appeared on the David Jaffe podcast, apparently placing some of the blame on the game's success, or lack thereof, on the players. Now, when he was asked if he'd heard anything about the, quote, meaningful uptick of engagement with Days Gone since the game was added to the PlayStation Plus collection on PS5, he said the following. Strap in, guys. I do have an opinion on something that your audience may find of interest, and it might piss some of them off. If you love a game, buy it at fucking full price. I can't tell you how many times I've seen gamers say, yeah, I got that on sale. I got it through PS Plus, whatever. Then Jaffe, the host of the podcast, instantly responds with, but how do you know you love a game until you've played it? Which is a pretty fucking good question. He comes back with, I'm just saying you don't, but don't complain if a game doesn't get a sequel if it wasn't supported at launch. Henry, does he have a point, or is he just being ridiculous? And did he adequately respond to Jaffe's question?
I think he does have a point, but he's articulated it very poorly. And this whole story really annoyed me because it's been going on like throughout the week, and Jaffe's been having little like secondary conversations after the fact on Twitter and doing other streams and stuff about it. In case you don't know, David Jaffe is David Jaffe is I think he's a former developer. I don't think he really works in games much anymore. He did the original God of War. He's director on that, so he's done loads of stuff. He used to work with Sony. Did Twisted Metal. That's a big one that he worked on. But he's not as active as he was anymore. So now he just does these podcasts and says what the fuck he thinks. He's just like, I don't give a shit. I'm not working for Sony anymore. I say what I like. Anyway, so what has annoyed me about this story is so many people have taken this and like ran with it as if he's like absolutely slamming gamers. He's shitting on everyone, when it's one comment in a 4-hour podcast, which I actually have watched it all. I watched it on double speed. Like hell am I watching a full 4-hour thing unless it's Lord of the Rings? Come on now, I'm not insane. But yeah, I think to give him the benefit of the doubt. I mean, I don't know exactly what he's thinking. This is just my interpretation of it. I think what he's trying to say is, if you want a sequel to a game, you need to support that game and the developers in the biggest way you can, which is to buy it at full price. But I think what comes across, and you can quite rightly criticize, is him saying, how do you know you like a game if you haven't played it? So why should you risk however much games it's going to now? They're like $70 now. Mm-hmm. Why should you risk that much to maybe not like it? I think that's a perfectly valid reasoning. I think what he should be saying, and he's not saying it right, especially because he uses the F word, which makes it way more aggressive. What he should be saying is, if you want a sequel, support the developers, which is a more vague way of saying, buy the game from us at full price, merch, all that other crap, make sure you're interested. I think there's been a lot of hullabaloo around this, and I don't think it's fair. I don't think it paints the whole story or even his entire outlook on things, because it's a 4-hour conversation. They talk about loads of different stuff, and he doesn't dance around stuff as much as the previous guy in the previous story of this, which was what's his name? Jeff. His username on Twitter is Jake Rocket, but he's either Jake or Jeff. I can't remember which way around it goes. He was still under NDA, but John Garvin said that he left Sony Bend like 6 days after the game shipped. And he's had nothing to do with the sequel. He's had nothing to do with any of that. It was a bit of a mutual. He wasn't gelling with Sony by the end, and Sony weren't gelling with him. So like, yeah, cool, we'll go our separate ways. But I think a lot of what he said has been not taken out of context, because if he literally said, if you love a game, buy it at full fucking price. That's exactly what he said. But I think there's been a lot of headline reading and just running with that, and I don't really think that's fair.
I think the main criticism for his comment is the fact that it's illogical. Like, it's putting the cart before the horse. You cannot buy a game at full price once you love it, because to love it is to own it. And you cannot buy a game, you should not. What's the point of buying a game if you already own it? If that means you already love it. So it's just the way he's termed it is wrong, right? I mean, what he means is, and he does, in his follow-up, he says, I'm just saying, don't complain if a game doesn't get a sequel if it wasn't supported at launch. Like, obviously the people who bought it supported it. So who is he talking to there? Like, who's he criticising?
This is the thing. It's a very poorly worded thing for the point I believe he's trying to make, which is, support the game and the developers and stuff. So I guess if we take this as literally as possible, I got it through PS Plus, so you get it for free, because it was recently put on PS Plus for PS4 completely for free, and it's also on PS Plus Collection for PS5. So is he saying if you like it and you played it through via that, then buy it properly, like buy it through the store or something? Is that what he's saying? 'Cause that's a bit of a kind of long-winded way. Although it comes back around to what we were saying the other day. If we ever get a game for free, like a free-to-play game, and you really enjoy it, sometimes you kind of feel, I want to give him a little something.
You feel like you owe him something. Yeah, and I think what he's missing here is he's overlooking the fact that as the game gets played by more people, it is grown in popularity, and people invest in that franchise, and then you get to a point where a sequel is more feasible once more people have played it. And I think that you miss that around launch, when especially since the reviews weren't entirely glowing. They were like 71%. So he's overlooking that, and I think that's maybe where some of the anger is coming from, where he's missing the fact that reviewers did such a bad job on this, personally, in my personal opinion, and he's aiming some of the blame towards players for not buying it based on those reviews. Surely he should be looking elsewhere for the blame.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's so relevant for this game in particular, because if you love a game, buy it at fucking full price. Well, if people has bought it at full price at launch on day one, the performance was dog shit for a lot, not everyone, but a lot of people it was a real problem. Loads of frame rate drops, loads of this and that bugs and whatnot, which have largely, as far as I'm concerned, have been completely fixed, especially on the PS4 Pro and now the PS5 and soon to be the PC. My God, there's too many P's here, too many P's in a pod. But yeah, I think I'm not saying I agree with his statement at all with buy it at full fucking price. No, I believe you should wait and buy and look at reviews and buy a game when you think it's appropriate or whatever. Make the choice. You shouldn't be shamed into it. But he is right in the sense of if you want a sequel, you need to support the game financially. Literally, that is all that actually matters. This petition doesn't mean shit. People need to buy the game and prove that they are interested in it. But at the same time, there are plenty of problems with the game. Like, it's not perfect. I said that in the video. I think we touched on it last week. It's got its performance issues that it started with that have largely been fixed. But beyond that, it's got a bunch of story problems in the sense that the first section was very slow for a lot of people. And again, Jaffe and Garvin talk about this in this very podcast, but I mean, it's a 4-hour thing. You can't expect people to watch through all of that to get to hear everything. So perhaps it's a flaw on Jaffe's part for running it for that long. But they talk about how Garvin's very upfront with this one didn't quite work. I would have changed this, So he already knows there's things he would do differently. I mean, as any creative does. But it's just a very aggressive way to say it. If you love a game, buy it at fucking full price.
Well, he is a gruff white protagonist after all. What do you expect? You know what I mean?
And again, they talk about that in the thing and how we don't get that criticism at all. Whatever.
But there you go. What I want to move on to next is my kind of observation about around the whole monetization of this game. Now, I'm playing devil's advocate here, right? So the modern games industry is known for nickel and diming its players by double dipping on monetization. More often than not, a AAA game asks you to buy the game outright to begin with, and then they monetize additionally other pieces of the game, like microtransactions, skins, all that nonsense. That's how modern AAA game normally gets monetization, right? However, this is Sony we're talking about, and their strategy, mainly in the main, is just make a single player game with no additional monetization, But is that hurting the feasibility of a sequel in this instance? So the question is, would the opportunity for making additional revenue after a game's launch with microtransactions or whatever else ease the reliance on launch sales? Because that's what the point that Garvin's making, is that sales weren't good enough at launch, full price sales weren't big enough. So if they were able to monetize it additionally, would that mean that Sony would think, well, yeah, we can make more money off this in the long run? Or termed another way, think about it this way, would you take a sequel for Days Gone on the condition that it has a focus on multiplayer and an online store that sells microtransactions? Any thoughts, Henry?
Well, I'll take the first part, which is if we did like monetizing this one, how could we additionally monetize the first one? Based, because the only form of monetization is the initial purchase. It's a buy to play and that's it. They did free DLC in the form of challenges and stuff, which was great. Everyone loves free DLC, and a lot of people were always asking for some story based DLC. Same with pretty much any story game which people like. They're like, oh, yeah, I want more. Give me some more. But it comes down to, if it didn't sell, it sold well. It made its money back, but because it was such a long development time, there was a lot of money to be made back. So making DLC is still expensive. You still use all the same assets and stuff, but you've got to pay the people to make the damn thing. You've got to pay the actors to be in it, and then all the promo and marketing, all that jazz. Is it going to be worth it for a game that, based on the critics, wasn't really that great and perhaps doesn't deserve a DLC? Because a lot of people just don't care about Days Gone. It's had this resurgence recently, but how many people were there at day one? Which I think is part of what John Garvin is trying to get at. It's like, you love it now. You love it now. It's gone. It's like an ex-girlfriend. But that's not the consumer's fault. It's not. It's. I mean, yeah, it's the game's fault, I guess, for launching the way it did, and the consumer shouldn't be punished for buying a game on sale or shouted at.
No,
but again, I believe what he's trying to say, support the game. I don't know exactly what's going on in his head. Like we said, he's a gruff white man.
Well, I think his comments after what he's just said shed a bit more light on why he's thinking the way he is, and maybe he's placing a little too much blame at the consumer's feet. So he continues, it's like God of War got whatever number millions of sales at launch, and Days Gone didn't. I'm just speaking for me personally as a developer. I don't work for Sony. I don't know what the numbers are. So he sounds a little bit jealous here of how well God of War did. It got a sequel. A lot of the more recent Sony first-party titles, they got a sequel or another game coming out almost instantly. Talking about Horizon Zero Dawn, let's ignore Death Stranding for now. Spider-Man Miles Morales was another one that came out. Greenlit almost instantly, whereas this one wasn't. Is he a little bit jealous here of?
I'm sure he is. I mean, I would be, but I mean, I absolutely adore God of War. But it's one of those where as far as I can tell, the numbers just speak for themselves. God of War broke Sony's record of a day one launch exclusive as soon as it launched, and then that was rebroken by Spider-Man, and then that was rebroken by The Last of Us 2. And Spider-Man's had amazing legs, like Miles Morales as well. That's still going, and some stuff was saying that Miles Morales even outsold Ghost of Tsushima, which did really, really well, and The Last of Us 2, which did really, really well. So Spider-Man is fucking killing it over at Sony. But if Days Gone was one of these record-breaking ones, I feel like it would be a different story, but it just wasn't, because you got to look at it from Sony's perspective as well, because they're going to have to put in even more money for a sequel. A sequel will almost always will be bigger and more expensive than the original. And the Days Gone was such a long development cycle because it's their first ever open world game. They were transitioning and trying a lot of new things. It was a very, very iterative process. I think there's an interview with Sam Witwer, who plays the main character. He said how it actually took him a while to find where they were because the process was so iterative, and he found that difficult. But once he got that was their creative process, it started to work. But that kind of process has cost a lot of money, and can you expect Sony to put up that much money, arguably more so to maybe take a chance on a sequel which people clearly don't seem to be that interested in because it didn't sell that well when it launched and critics didn't like it.
I think there'll definitely be some savings for the sequel. I mean, the engine, in terms of the process, they're used to the process. So it won't take as long in the long run. So there are definitely places where they could save money as well as, maybe it costs a little more too. Garvin carries on to say, and this is the crux of it for me, I can tell you that when we were doing Siphon Filter Dark Mirror on PSP, who he was he was a developer on, we got so fucked on Dark Mirror because the piracy was a thing. Sony wasn't really caught up on what piracy was doing to sales. And we would show them torrents. A torrent site had 200,000 copies of Dark Mirror being downloaded. If I remember it right, the numbers could be wrong. But regardless, I was pissed about it then. And I was like, this is money out of my pocket. Now, leaving the piracy, sticking a peg in the piracy issue and just like, putting that to one side for a moment, because that is a whole other conversation in itself. It sounds to me like there's a lot of residual bitterness here towards the gamers from this thing that happened with Dark Mirror and the piracy. Is it maybe colouring his opinion on gamers here? So, because to paraphrase what he's just said, my game deserves more. I mean, obviously I'm doing this for dramatic effect, but what he says in essence, in my opinion, my game deserved more sales at launch, and that's your fault for not buying it because you love piracy. Is he sounding a bit entitled? Is he a little bit downer on the gamers?
I do. It does certainly sound like that, and I don't really think you can entirely blame him. I mean, it's not like a nice opinion to have. You shouldn't be blaming other people. But I can see where he's coming from, if that makes sense. Like, I don't agree. I don't like. It's not, piracy's fault that they never got another Siphon Filter game or whatever. I mean, it's probably part of it, but literally all it comes down to is money. If these 200,000 copies of Dark Mirror, if that it was an actual problem and actually took away from legitimate game sales, then fair enough. But generally speaking, I mean, I don't have any actual numbers in front of me, but piracy, it doesn't actually damage profits that much. I'm pretty sure I read that somewhere. It's not actually that harmful because people who pirate weren't going to buy the game anyway. Like that, they're not a consumer you lost because they weren't already on the bandwagon. It definitely does sound like he's bitter, but I also get a lot of bitterness towards Sony, not just gamers. He worked on Siphon Filter, quite a popular series, but certainly not, it's not an industry-defining thing. And I think he feels a bit burnt that it kind of happened again with Days Gone. It's another one. He was the sole writer on it. I think he was creative director, not game director, because there were two different roles. So it's obviously quite a passion project for him. He took it very, very seriously, and to have people not appreciate it at launch is probably it's a bit of a down, a bit disappointing to see your creation not get the love you believe it deserves, and then see it get this uptick, and then be like, well, where the fuck were you when we needed you? And like, I can see his resentment. I don't necessarily think it's correctly placed, but I can see where he's coming from with it. Yeah,
absolutely. I think that there's a lot of. I mean, obviously the unanswered question is, how do you? I mean, what he's doing is the people who love the game and bought it out at launch, they're one thing. It seems like he's attacking them, which is wrong, really. He says it wrong, and that's the crux of why this was picked up by the news outlets. It's not the people who bought it and loved the game he should be annoyed with. It's maybe, let's look at the reviews and see if they did a good job, because I personally feel that they didn't do at all. And then let's look at other people. If you want to talk about people not buying the game at launch, why didn't they buy the game at launch? Obviously, they're doing it for a reason. You can't blame them for not wanting to buy your game. You sound a little bit entitled by saying, "Oh, you should have bought the game." No, we'll do what I want with the money. Thank you very much. And I think that's why. I mean, with all that said here, though, I do appreciate that he is firing from the hip, and he's got. I mean, I don't agree with everything that he says, but the fact that he's willing to put it out there, at the very least, is I know commendable. I mean, we're living in an industry where there's just too many bland PR communications given from industry insights people who are just towing the company PR policy. Give me someone who spouts their opinion and not afraid to say what they think any day of the week. And actually Cliff Basinski, who was one of those people who would say what the fuck he wanted when he wanted, who's actually left the gaming, since his heyday, let's say, he actually commented on this story on Twitter, and he said the following: man, I'm so glad not to be that guy these days." Which
I
is
love Cliff
funny.
Blazinski. I remember like when Gears was first coming out, I've like looked at everything Cliff Blazinski said. If he said it, then I was like, oh, I gotta know, Cliffy B said this. And I follow him on Twitter now, and he's great fun. He just says shit. It's like, he doesn't care, and it's not all controversial, but he's just like, yeah, this is how I feel. If you don't like it, okay, fair enough, move on. And it's good to see John Garvin being as open as that, because the Jeff Rock, what the fuck, the other guy's name, game director of Days Gone, he was much more cagey about it because he was under NDAs, because he was still with Bend when they were shopping around the idea of a sequel, and then obviously that fell through, so he knows things that Garvin doesn't, and this and that. But yeah, it's refreshing to see him being so honest about it. And to be fair to the guy, he does point out it might piss some people off, but I'm going to say this. It doesn't excuse anything. It's like saying, oh, I'm not racist, but blah blah blah. But he knows it's going to be a bit risky. He even talks about at a different point in the interview when they're talking about whether there was like a woke SJW type crusade against the game, and neither of them are like those anti-SJW type people. They were like, yeah, no, I didn't really get it. It seemed like some people believed that. And Garvin even said his mum used to be the head of the White Nationalist Society or something like that, some proper radical racist group, and she was the chair of the committee. And he was like, yeah, I've grown up around all that shit. It's not anything I associate with.
And then to kind of tie off this little piece now, Eric Jensen, who is currently still employed by Sony Bend Studio, who was Days Gone lead designer and someone who wasn't fired by Sony, he was a little more diplomatic when talking about Days Gone players in a tweet yesterday, and he said the following: "Whether you picked up #Days Gone on day one, borrowed it from a friend, watched someone else play it, or tried it with PS Now or PS Plus, I appreciate you. Thank you for playing our game. The outpouring of love and support for our game and our studio has been incredible. Love heart emoji." Now, this is what I was just talking about. Your typical bland vanilla response.
Yeah. He's not allowed to say anything else.
Yeah. Is that what he really feels and thinks? Who knows? What it is a good PR line.
I'm sure he does think it, and then something else. I'm sure he does love that a lot of people have played the game now on PS Plus, or, lent it to a friend or whatever. But also, if you bought the game, maybe we'd get a little more money. Maybe we'd be able to play it. But that's the bit that's in brackets, in parentheses. We don't hear that bit. He's not going to be able to say anything else. He's still at Sony. He might have had a nudge from Sony PR to say it. He might have come out and said it all by himself. Who knows? But either way, the future of Days Gone is still questionable. It's not outright cancelled. I mean, Sony hasn't said a damn thing about it. It's just been Schreier's report, and then people, close to the original game have been saying their piece. We don't know anything about it. It's not outright cancelled, so that's the current, belief.
Yeah.
So it may show up at some point. Happy to wait for that. And then linking back to your other point, which I completely forgot to answer, would I accept a Days Gone 2 if it had some kind of additional monetization or, a multiplayer microtransactions? Probably not, to be honest. If I had multiplayer, I'd be like, ugh, fine. I don't play multiplayer, but I'd give it a try. My main problem with it would be, I feel like this is resources taken away from the main game, but you could get like supplementary teams or whatever to do it. That's fine. But yeah, if it was microtransaction stuff, that would sour a lot more people than were soured by the first game, just because it was a zombie game, open world fatigue and stuff.
Yeah,
I think that would piss off a serious amount of people, and it's not really worth it.
I know. I think it's an interesting conversation anyway, because I think because Sony have boxed themselves in terms of additional monetization like this, they're still doing it
the old way.
Yeah, they put so much emphasis on day one sales at full price, which is what Garvin's talking about here, that they cannot additionally monetize. Therefore, the feasibility of a sequel, or I guess the risk of a sequel is that much higher, because they know they're not going to be able to additionally monetize. Whereas, if you could, I'm not saying this is what I want. By all means, I would rather a game in full without additional monetization, skins, speed up boosters, all that bullshit that you get with Ubisoft games or whatever. I would prefer a sequel when it's ready, when it's financially viable for Sony. That would be my opinion. But it's an interesting point because the industry does it so much different, and maybe for somebody else other than Sony, a sequel might be more viable. But anyway, let's move. Sorry, have you got a...
So it's just that I saw a couple people telling... Oh, my camera is off. Let's just restart that. Yeah. I've seen a couple people saying, oh, Ben should just like pick it up and leave and go pitch it to someone else, or John Garvin could do it, but Sony owns Bend and they own the IP. Sony will do whatever the hell they want with it, whenever the hell they want with it. It could be dead forever. It could come back in, like 3 years or something. Either way, what I'm trying to say is Sony holds the reins. It literally doesn't matter what anyone else is. And I think I touched on this in my video about it last time. Whatever shape or form Days Gone takes, if it does come out, it's going to be a completely different game to whatever it would have been originally. Yeah. Because the two directors aren't there anymore. They've completely left the studio. Garvin's doing his own thing, not in gaming. He's doing writing, and he's an artist as well. He's a painter, so he's doing some stuff with that. The game director, he now works at NetherRealm doing, I don't think it's development, I think it's more like management stuff. And NetherRealm do Mortal Kombat, so he's well out of the Sony ecosystem. Whatever it is now, whatever it isn't now, is certainly not the same thing it was back in 2019 whenever they pitched it.
There you have it. It wasn't entirely the best quote, let's say, from
it's very
Garvin,
poorly worded.
But it did raise a few conversation topics, that's for sure. And, you've had our opinion. Let us know what you think down in the comments. Let's move on to NieR Replicant. Henry, what is this game? You've been playing it, and... what are your impressions of it?
Well, so I'll quickly point out that I am very near the beginning. I am only about 6-ish hours in, and it's one of those games, if you've played NieR Automata, if you've played it once, you haven't played the game. I'll put it that way. Because NieR Automata, you have to play it at least 3 times to actually complete the game. You play it through once, and you do it, and you get the credits. You play it through again, it's virtually the exact same game, you just play as the other character, because you have the companion character with the whole time. There's a few little changes. Then your third playthrough, it's a wholly different game, it's completely different. Similar sort of situation here, so I'm just, pointing out, I've played very little of the story and whatnot. Anyway, So this is NieR Replicant. Originally, there was a game called NieR Replicant, which came out in Japan in 2010, but in the West, and Europe and the US, there's another game called NieR Gestalt. They are exactly the same game, apart from one kind of minor thing, but also sort of major, is the protagonist. In the Japanese one, the proper one, NieR Replicant, you play as a young boy who's trying to, cure his sister. She's got this mysterious disease or curse or something. He's trying to fix it. In the Western version, it's an old man and his daughter, because Square Enix mandated that so that they would appeal to Western audiences. Long story short, didn't really work. No one bought the game. No one really cared for it at the time. It sold fairly poorly at launch. But it's developed quite a cult following, and then kind of out of nowhere, I say Automata. People say it differently. Some people say Automata. I think Automata sounds too much like a tomato.
Yeah, it sounds like you're asking for somebody's offering what sandwich filling do you want? Do you want lettuce or tomato?
Exactly. So I say Automata. No, that tripped my brain, my circuits a little bit there. Yeah, NieR Automata came out in 2017, developed by a different studio, developed by Platinum Games, who are one of my favourite studios. They just do bonkers, over-the-top action stuff. And the two games aren't really connected, but technically they're in the same universe. They're technically on the same... Well, technically Automata... Fuck. What do I say?
Automata, man.
Robots. The NieR with robots and the girl with blindfolds wearing her lingerie.
Automata.
That's a sequel. But it's not actually connected. There's a few crossover characters and themes and mechanics, but you don't need to play one to play the other. That's the point I'm trying to make. Anyway, this new game, which its full title is NieR Replicant presumably version 1.2247448739 ... And I believe it actually goes on longer. So this is a remake / a remaster. It's kind of a bit of both, and I think I touched on this in one of the videos this week as well. Remakes are generally considered to be, like a top to bottom reworking of mechanics, changing things up, and the visual side. So it's actually a whole new game. A remaster, on the other hand, is generally just visual or just performance with a few little tweaks to update it, but the core game itself stays the same. This is sort of both at the same time because they've upgraded all the visuals and re-recorded some dialogue and some put different things in, but also they have tweaked the combat to bring it more in line with the combat of Automata. So it's kind of half step. I'd probably consider it a remaster though, rather than a remake. Anyway, so it's a hack and slash RPG mainly. That's most of the gameplay, but then there's also some genre blending stuff, because at times it seems like a bullet hell shooter with energy balls everywhere, and if you shoot your energy ball or their energy ball, it pops through, and different stuff. There's platforming elements, both 2D and 3D, but its core, to make it as reductive as possible, it's like a fantasy action RPG with swords and magic. That's very reductive. If you just described it as that, you're actually missing out a significant portion of what the game is, but that's it. The original was developed by Cavia, I don't really know how to pronounce it in Japan, and that went bust in 2010, but this remaster / remake, whatever you want to call it, is handled by Toy Logic, but it features a lot of the original staff, especially Yoko Taro, who is weird as shit, man. If you
the guy with the big helmet thing,
yeah, it's this giant. It looks kind of like a moon-shaped head. He looks a bit like the one of the mascots in the Outer Worlds. Yeah. He's bonkers, man, and I think he's great. I have no idea what he's talking about. I mean, especially as he's Japanese. So then his madness then has to be translated into English and then interpreted by us. But I think the industry needs more people like him, man.
Yeah,
like Kojima's weird as well. Like we were just saying with Garvin, someone who will actually say what they think. Cliff Bleszinski, whether you like it or not.
Some personality. Something interesting to talk about. God almighty.
And the fact that a big company like Square Enix has let Yoko Taro do his own thing this many times, because NieR is actually sort of connected to another series called Dragon Guard, which I know nothing about, which is this whole other big fantasy thing with dragons and shit, and it's apparently connected, but no one really knows why. I'm not even sure Yoko Taro knows why. Anyway, so on top of the other features I talked about, this remaster has updated visuals, combat tweaks to bring it more in line with Automata's gameplay, which is much bigger and much more hectic. Full voice acting in Japanese and English with the original voice cast, because before there was that voicing in cutscenes, but when it brings up text boxes, sometimes they were voiced, sometimes they weren't. That's now all fully voiced. Re-recorded music, so all the music is brand new. And then there's also DLC, and I'm not entirely sure how this is working, because currently I don't have access to it, so I don't know if it's going to be like a day one launch thing. I assume it's free, because it's what remasters do. They normally give you the other shit from the previous versions that was paid and then bring it all together, but that's not a guarantee. I don't know that for sure. So the DLC brings in the skins from Automata, or Automata, whichever one, you make your choice. And voices of those characters, which is quite a fun little extra thing. The protagonist from Gestalt, so the adult one, you can play as the adult one or the boy. Extra dungeons to play through and a story expansion. So it's quite a chunky update of stuff, essentially. Now, in terms of the story, this is, again, very early on, and I know some things are yet to happen. Like I'm fairly sure there's like a time jump or a skip or something that happens at some point, but I'm not even there yet. But basically, the world as we know it ended over 1,000 years ago, so it's a long, long time ago, and society has basically slipped back into a kind of rudimentary medieval sort of setting. So it's swords and lots of wooden structures, and not really castles, but there's stone buildings rather than concrete or anything like that. Technology is very, very limited, but there's some old stuff from the old world, like old buildings that you can go and explore, and there's this mystery around it. Everyone's like, whoa, what happened? Can you believe they did this? And no one even speaks any of the old languages anymore. They find books and they can't read them. So the world has moved on. And then Automata is then another like 15,000 years on from that or something. It's ridiculous. Anyway, your sister, or daughter from the Gestalt version, is called Yona, and she's infected with this strange curse/disease thing called the Black Scrawl, and it's slowly killing her. Your goal, as her brother or father, is just to try and save her. That's pretty much your main driving force, and if I can save her, maybe I'll save the world at the same time, if I've got, if I'm not busy. You also get this book who helps you, and this book is my favourite thing in the world. It's a sentient, like, spell book called Grimoire Weiss, or Weiss, depending on your pronunciation, but that basically just means white book, essentially. And it's magical, and it can speak to you, and he is the most relatable character I think I've ever played with. He's so grumpy, and he just constantly complains about me getting into side quests. And the side quests, it's one of the weakest parts of the game. They're total shit. Most of them are fetch quests and totally pointless, but anyway, we'll come back to that. He just complains. I think it's brilliant, and he's got this, like, attitude of, I am an arcane tome of mighty power, how dare you? And no one listens to him. No one gives a shit. He's a floating book. No one cares. I think he's just fabulous. Then there's also this other character who hangs out with you, but I've only recently met her. She's not been around for very long, called Kaini. She's supposedly been possessed by some of these dark creatures that are inhabiting the world. That they're kind of like your neutral enemies. They're these weird shadow things. I don't know much about them because it's still a mystery, so I can't tell you much. And she's cool. She has a real potty mouth, which kind of came out of nowhere. She's voiced by Laura Bailey, and we were like running along about to fight this boss, and then she just starts screaming at him that he's an arsehole. I'm like, I didn't realise this was that kind of game. No one's barely said anything like that so far. She's dropping F-bombs left and right. One thing on that note, though, with Kaini. Right, so I know a lot of Japanese games have interesting character designs. She ain't one. What the fuck is she wearing? Like, in NieR Automata, the main character, 2B, who's an android, she basically wears like a French maid outfit, which was very, sexualized and stuff, but it works for kind of this style in a way. In that game, I was expecting there to be some like subversion of some reason that she's doing that. But no, it's just she looks hot and that's it. This girl, it's absurd. And again, I'm hoping that there's some reason for it, but I just think it's bad. If you want a sexy character, absolutely go for it. Have them, titty jiggle, whatever. Do what you like. But I just think her character design is so poor. It's cringy, man.
What's she wearing? What's she wearing?
I'll throw up a picture on screen, and I'll quickly Google one. Kaini from NieR. It's
the one in
basically
the nightdress.
She's got blue.
In a nightie.
Yes, and she's got these two swords. It's horrific.
What's wrong with that, Henry?
It's so they to be fair, they do acknowledge it when you first meet her. You're like, why are you in your underwear? And she just kind of goes, ugh. And I'm like, why are you in your underwear? Because the creator wanted it, and so be it. But I just think it's so stupid. And so the worst part is these are only front-on shots. You want to look at her butt because she's got underwear with.
Do I?
No, you don't. Oh, maybe you do. I don't know. You do you, kid.
Shall I Google that?
Happy. Probably safest to not.
But
it's just, I don't know, man. I just think it's childish and cringy when I see shit like that. But then 2B in NieR Automata, I thought that was okay. It was still kind of stupid that she's pointlessly like, oh, here's just my arse. All right, cool. You love to see it. Anyway, the minor sort of, it's not really a complaint. It's just a stylistic choice I don't really vibe with. And stylistically, that's one of my, I guess you'd call it a problem, but again, it's not the game's fault, really. It's just it's my personal taste. I think a lot of the world is quite dull and lifeless to look at because it's got this very muted color palette, and some of the environmental designs are just kind of, like there's nothing there. There's nothing that stand out or particularly memorable. But again, that's not really. Like, it's not bad, so to speak, you know what I mean? It is a choice that I don't really particularly agree with. But then in terms of graphics and fidelity, it's not trying to be photorealistic, which I think some people might immediately jump, oh, it's a really ugly game. It's not trying to do that. It's very, anime-esque with soft faces and big eyes and spiky hair and that sort of stuff, which I like on the characters, although, again, Kaini's outfit, what the hell were they thinking? I just think it's absurd. So in terms of the actual gameplay, like I said, it's pretty much a hack-and-slash RPG, and you've got your light attack, heavy attack, you can do charged attacks, which are both on light and heavy, so that can change things up, jumps, dodges, and parries, and there is a combo counter, but it's not really for anything. You don't really get anything out of it, not like in a Devil May Cry or something like that. And again, it's no Devil May Cry in terms of quality hack and slash, because Devil May Cry is the best at that as far as I'm concerned, but it's still good. It's still real good. It's not as chaotic or over the top or as variable or complex as NieR Automata, but again, it's still good. Then you get the book, Grimoire Vice, and he essentially is your ranged attacks or magic attacks, and you can technically have 4 spells equipped at once, because you can change your dodge button and your block button to be spells as well if you want to just get rid of them. But realistically, you want to have block. So up on your triggers and bumpers, you'll have block, dodge, and then 2 spells. And there's one which is called Dark Blast, and it's basically just rapid fire energy balls, and that's what turns the game into a bit of a bullet hell at times. Again, nothing quite as hairy as the other one, the sequel, the one with the French maid. Nothing as hairy as that one, at least so far. And then there's other spells like Dark Fist, which is a giant fist, and Dark Lance, and I'll give you a minute to guess that. It's a giant lance. And the magic is very simple. They're basically one move at a time. And you've got a little magic meter which depletes and whatnot. It's very simple, but I still like it. It has just enough variety, and some enemies are better suited to take magic damage, some better suited just to whack them with your sword. One thing I would like is the ability to switch between spells more smoothly, because currently you've got to go into your like menu and then equip or unequip, which is a bit annoying. I think if I had the ability to swap them on the fly, that would really add something, but again, it's one of those features where it's probably quite difficult to implement in a remaster versus just a whole new game. The camera's perspective is one thing that really spices the game up. Again, a lot like Automata. Normally, it's in third-person, general, camera behind you, you're running through the world, and you can manually control it. But sometimes it'll flip to a top-down perspective, or sometimes it'll flip to a side-scrolling perspective, and you'll do proper 2D platforming, or like I said, bullet hell stuff where there's just loads of crap on your screen you just got to deal with. These genre flips keep it really, really engaging and fresh because they happen at like specific times. Like you'll be running through a building or a new environment or something, and then they'll flip the camera and it's like, right now you're playing it like this with these enemies coming at you, and I think it just keeps you on your toes. It keeps things moving and unique in a much more compelling way than just a flat just generic hack and slash. Those switches help distinguish this series from other hack and slash franchises. I really like Yoko Taro's weird way of doing things. I don't understand half of what the guy's on about. There's so many like themes and metaphors, and everything's inspired by like folklore or a poem or something like that. Most of it goes over my head. I'm very stupid. But I think he has just an interesting way of twisting conventions, like with the camera flips, and like with out of nowhere just do a platforming section, and just weird stuff. And the fact that this game has loads of endings, and it's not just a good versus bad ending, you've got to literally play the game again and things continue to unfold. I like that he, in terms of game design, he can use the fact that it is a video game to keep telling the story. I think that was really, really good in Automata, because the fact that you had to keep playing it was actually tied directly into why you're doing things in the story. I don't want to spoil it because I think it's a fantastic game. It's brilliant, but it's using the medium to tell its metaphor even more explicitly, which I think was fantastic. But speaking of design, since it is just a remaster, there's a lot of what I would just consider quite dated design choices. There's a lot of backtracking to, like, you'll run away, run somewhere, pick up an item, run immediately back, and that's it. You completed the quest. There's just nothing else to it. Lots and lots of fetch quests. In pretty much every side quest so far has been a fetch quest. It's been like, I've lost my eggs. Can you go find my eggs? Okay, I'll go find your eggs. I found your egg. Here you go. Here's your egg. Okay, thank you. Here's some gold. And gold is gold. I mean, you just find it in the world anyway. It's not. I've not found it particularly useful. I mean, I'll buy a new weapon, which cool, a new big sword, nice, very good, like that. But it's not, some super rich economy. There are other RPG things, like you can use essentially potions to buff your defense or buff your magic or something, but so far I've not felt I need to. I've not felt under pressure to. I feel like it's a bit easy. I'm quite comfortable. I can quite simply get through most fights without taking much damage. I think I've died a couple of times, but a lot of it was just me, like, bullshit reasons, like me not paying enough attention, or like my own fault, not actually being challenged and forced to like think outside the box type thing. But yeah, that's kind of all I've got written down. Like I said, I'm only about 6 hours or so in, and I know there's some stuff that is yet to happen that's quite significant in terms of story and whatnot. But I'm really enjoying it. I really, really, really like NieR Automata. It's probably my there were a lot of good games in 2017, but it might be my game of the year for that year. This is, if you like that, like this, but it's not as advanced. It's not as much like If this is an 8 on the setting of like crazy hack and slash stuff, NieR Automata is like a 13. That's really balls to the wall. If you played this one first, which realistically you should because it's it's the first one in the series technically, and then moved on to Automata, it would feel like everything's turned up and better. But going from that back down, it does feel it's just less, which isn't a problem. It's just the nature of the beast of it being a remaster of an old game from 2010 that virtually no one played, which is an interesting point because I was reading about the sales of it, and it only sold like 200,000 copies in its first innings. I can't remember quite how long it was, which isn't great. And apparently it made its money back, but it wasn't a success. But they weren't quite complete shut down the studio terrible, although they did shut down in 2010, so this certainly had something to do with it. But then the fact that Square Enix let them have a sequel in NieR Automata, and then has let Yoko Taro go back again and fiddle with this one, I think it's an interesting move from Square, because normally they don't really give that much of a shit. But then again, NieR Automata sold like over 5.5 million copies as of February this year. So, I mean, clearly something went right. They dropped the ball a little bit first time round and then nailed it the second time. I don't know. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that says, but it's nice that it's getting a second life, because it is quite a cult classic. Lots of people really like it and really just like the world. I think that's one of the things that if you're going to like the game, it'll be because you like the world and the interesting Yoko Taro-esque approach to adding intrigue, and everything's a mystery. Not everything is as it seems. Even like fairly innocuous stuff can turn out to be this crazy, ridiculous thing. Like the head he wears on his head at all times. I don't think anyone's ever seen his real face. That's a character from this series who is just it's a whole thing. I don't even understand it.
Yeah.
But I'm having a great time. I should be reviewing it at some point, but I don't really know how long it's going to take me, because obviously I've got to do all the multiple playthroughs. I think there's at least 5 endings.
Right, but full disclosure, you got the code from Square Enix, right?
Yes.
We should disclose that, because...
Oh, yeah, I probably should have said that at the beginning, but yeah.
So, I've just said it, it's fine. It's good.
Well, I mean, if this becomes a segment, I'll throw it at the beginning, but it probably won't.
It is, right.
Yeah, Square Enix sent it to me. I'm currently playing on PC. Performance is pretty solid. It's generally at 60. There's no higher, no less. It's pretty at that. Sometimes it will like fluctuate for a second, but it's no Outriders, let me tell you. And yeah, I'm having a great time. It's the kind of game I needed after Outriders just kind of pissed me off. It ticks boxes, and it's what I like, and I really, really like NieR Automata. NieR Automata is the better game because it's just more advanced. But if you like that one, you'll really like this one.
There you have it. That's NieR Replicant, available when? Today?
Tomorrow, I believe, as of recording, so the 23rd, which is Friday.
It's today. If you listen to this, it's today. It's available already, because we can't release this on the day of recording, because that would be just far too much work. But thanks for that kind of early impressions review there, Henry. Let's move on to the next segment, which is the beginning of the community segment. And this is where I like to read off the contributors or the new supporters from this week. And over on Patreon, we've had an increase of a pledge by James from $1 per month to $5 per month. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate your contribution there. We've also had a new contributor, Future Proof, has pledged $1 per month. Thank you very much. Every single dollar counts. If everybody who watched and enjoyed this podcast donated just a single dollar, we wouldn't have to worry about not making enough money to pay the bills. So if you do want to support us, head over to patreon.com/prettygoodgaming, or hit the join button over on our main channel on YouTube and become a member there. And from as little as $1 a month, you get access to the Discord. You get that podcast 2 days early, and you also get to ask us questions for the podcast. With that said, let's jump into the podcast questions. Actually, before we do that, Future Proof, who is the guy who is the new supporter this month, he did messages on Patreon, and he left the following message: realized if I can save $1 a week on my shopping, I can easily afford to support you and Henry. Sorry for flip-flopping recently. Fuck poker, guys. Fuck Poker. I wholeheartedly agree. Fuck poker. And again, thanks for your contribution, sir. Let's move on to the first question for this week. Take it away, Henry.
Okay, this is from Simply Phil. Hello, gents. With the way that Twitch is moving to more soft, P word that may get me demonetized, OnlyFans channel, do you think that
Soft
Microsoft
piss.
killed off its... Soft what?
Soft piss. Why is that?
Yeah, that's definitely...
You mean the P-O-N, soft P-O-N-O-R-N?
Prawn.
Soft prawn. There you go.
Do you think that Microsoft killed off its platform too soon? Presumably referring to Mixer, which was shut down 5 minutes after it started. To back this up, I swear I heard that Ninja is regularly getting beaten on numbers by just chatting streamers. Although, didn't I hear that Microsoft were buying Discord?
Oh, dear.
Well, this is a big question about the Twitch ecosystem, and I don't follow anything on Twitch, really. But I believe you're talking about this, the hot tub thing, I would guess, from a quick Google search of and being on the peripherals of that sort of world, people complaining about it. I mean, I don't believe they're moving to a more soft prawn OnlyFans vibe. I just think if the people want to stream in their bathtubs or hot tubs or whatever, and that's compliant with Twitch's rules, which it never fucking is, then why not? The problem is that there seems to be a huge disparity in how Twitch enforces its rules, and that's on absolutely everything across the board, from nudity to offensive things, because who knows what that means? It's so subjective. And then the point about Ninja getting beaten by just chatting streamers, if that's what people want to watch, it's what they want to watch. I mean, should Ninja be at the top? I don't even believe he is at the top anymore. I think there's another chap who just did a big record-breaking thing. I can't remember what his name was. But I don't really watch Twitch, so it's not my area of expertise. And then the point about Microsoft buying Discord, that was a rumor a while ago, and I'm pretty sure it just came out that that's definitely not happening.
It is dead.
It was sworn off, cast aside.
Yeah.
But I mean, mainly, if Twitch are okay for people to do this soft prawn stuff, then why not? It's not going to kill the platform. The platform's still going to exist, and people watch it. I mean, one of the biggest streamers is what's her face? Because she's one I read about reading this. I don't like her. I think she's awful. Something. What's her fucking name? I don't know how to pronounce it, but she's one of the biggest ones, and she's just a titty streamer through and through. I think she does her own OnlyFans or something, and she makes loads of money because people watch it. People want to see that, so why not let it go? I mean, I don't see anything wrong with it. It's not going to replace the game channels or anything like that. If people want to watch a girl in a hot tub, why not? Let them. As long as she's complying with their policies and they're enforcing those policies correctly, which they never are, then why the hell not?
Yeah, so be it. Thanks for the question, Simply Phil. I'm not going to thank you too hard. You've got 2 more questions to come up, one of which I'm not sure whether I like, but we'll get to that. Next question from Future Proof, or there's 5 parts to this question. Questions for Gaz and Henry. Question 1. Does it lean to the left or to the right, or are you a straight shooter? I'm not gay, but I am strange. It's one of those people, are you?
I think all of these questions are along a similar... Yeah, I just read the second one.
Are you willing to answer this one, Henry? Is it too personal for you?
Well, I will if you will. I mean,
I'm a left leaner personally. I mean,
I
thank
goodness. I feel like most people, if they lean one way, it's to the left, and I don't really understand why.
How do you know that most people lean to the left, Henry? I'm not going to ask your sources. I'm not going to ask you to prove it.
100% of people in this podcast do. I'll leave it at that.
That's fair enough. Okay, question 2.
There's the line. I think it's in Liar Liar. Someone asks Jim Carrey's character, "Oh, hi, how's it hanging?" He says, "Short, shriveled, and always to the left." And I'm like, there you go. That's me forgive the pun, in a nutshell.
There you go. Whoa. Right, question number 2. Do you wipe your ass sitting down or standing up? Do you start wiping from top to bottom or under to over? So it's up, down, top or bottom. Up, down, top or bottom.
The second half is the one that's confused me, but I mean, I'm a stander. I don't
stander wiping up.
Yeah,
I mean that's 100% of this podcast.
I mean, if you maybe do a little as you're coming up, and then you stand up and you do what you got to do.
All right, that's 2 out of 2 done. Let's see if we can get through all of these without tripping up. Question 3: do you have it shaved down there or keep it gorilla style? He wants know a lot about our nether regions, doesn't he?
Indeed. I mean, you've got to trim it a little, but I don't really believe that you should go completely bald. I'm not, 5 years old.
Yeah, you've got to keep it. You've got to keep it under control. Yeah, definitely not. Definitely not gorilla style. Definitely keep the.
But if
bushes
you like that, you do whatever you like.
For hygiene plus aesthetic reasons, you gotta tend it. You know what I mean? Anyway, question 4: does Gaz have any tattoos? If so, what and where? I have 0 ink on my body, so sorry about that. No. And question 5: this isn't a body or image related question. How did Henry and Gaz meet? Do you want to tell them the romantic story of how we met, Henry?
Well, I was looking online, and he oh my god, it's so embarrassing. No, he put up a job listing, and I applied.
Yeah, that was literally it. It was Henry applied, and among the millions of people who applied,
he made the wrong choice.
I checked out his Facebook page and thought, yeah, he's good looking enough. Let's take him. I did.
I'm significantly better looking than I was, because now I have at least some bit of a beard, which I think enhances every single man.
There you go. We've been as honest as we possibly could, dear future. We hope that was worth the $1 this month. Yeah. Let's move on to Simply Phil's second question.
So this is another, oddly sort of personal, not gaming related or anything. You just want to get to know us better, which I quite enjoy. Simply Phil says, when you start to go grey, will you dye your hair? I think you're best placed to answer this, since you do you already do it?
Full disclosure, obviously you've guessed it, but yeah, I mean, don't let the baby face fool you. I'm 40 years old. I started going grey 4 years ago, and hopefully you can't see any of it, because yeah, I do dye my hair, and don't, it might work for Clooney, being like a grey fox, silver fox as he is. I'm not at that stage yet where I want to transition into an elder-looking person. I'm at least I've still got, my brother's completely bald pretty much. He's like old. So I'm just going to enjoy it while I've got it, and I'm going to dye it. So full disclosure, I already do and have done for a good few years, maybe 3 or 4 years. How about you, Henry?
I mean, I'm not greying yet, but I always quite like the idea of going grey. So I think going grey I'd let happen, but if I was going bald, I mean, my hairline's already heading north. Look at the size of this forehead. If I went fully bald, I would embrace it. If this went further back, I'd just, go full-time bald and I'd shave my head. I quite like the idea of shaving my head. I think about it all the time.
Do you?
Like, just completely zzz, and then done. See what happens. And
talking of going grey, I found my first grey chest hair the other day. Instantly pulled it out. I wasn't happy with that. I've got quite a mane on my chest, and if that went grey, that I'm not dyeing that. I just have to shave it all off. So that was a moment of realization when you realize that it's might be slipping off the mortal coil sooner than I expected. But there you go. Thanks for the question, Simply Phil. That isn't even the question that I'm going to dislike. The next one is coming up. But next question is from Stephen123. Hi, not a gaming question, but kind of relates to greedy bastards and companies. What's your opinion of the European Super League? Can I assume that you don't know much about the ESL?
I have no idea.
Okay, I'll take this one. So this was this week. It was announced that 6 of the Premier League clubs plus 6 other clubs from around Europe are kind of breaking away, but it wasn't really breaking away, but joining this like separate football competition. They were going to carry on with the Premier League and everything and just playing this. Like they chose themselves that they're good enough to play for this league. Like it's not even on merit that they're in this like league, and that's everyone kicked up a big fuss about it. 2 days later, they announced that we fucked up. We're not going to do the Super League anymore. There was absolute uproar by everybody. Like over 90% of people polled said that they didn't want a European Super League because it it wasn't part of the football structure because these teams were there not on merit, but because they were historically the best teams in the league, or some notion of them being greater than the other teams, and so that exclusivity was totally panned by all the pundits, and rightfully it's been trashed. Hopefully, although a couple of the Spanish teams are still kind of trying to keep it going. But yeah, ESL down the pan. It needs to be, if they are going to reform European football, it needs to be merit-based. There needs to be the opportunity for the smaller clubs to eventually get to the top of the European competition. They cannot do it like this. If they need more money and stability, which is one of the main motivations, they need to find it by reforming the Champions League as is current, or a Super League, a European Super League, which allows people to be promoted into it. How they can do that, I don't know. But those are a lot of thoughts, and thanks for the question, Stephen. Let's move on to Simply Phil's last question.
This is the real one. Are you really only 5'5", Gaz, but rejected as a hobbit because you have tiny feet?
That's a leading question. Phil, you've met me. You know I'm not 5'5". You know I'm 6 foot. You are a giant of a man. Even though I would say if you went to Holland, you would be small in comparison because Dutch people are huge, right? So don't get all high and mighty there on your high horse, Mr. Simply Phil. I am 6 foot tall. I have been for a good number of years. I'm not shrinking just yet, despite my age. And I was not rejected as a hobbit because I have tiny feet. I've rejected as a hobbit because I'm too damn tall. Thank you very much. Let's move on.
I think it's all a lie, personally.
I mean, you're 6'2", 6'3" yourself, aren't you, Henry?
Yeah, I'm 6'3".
I just tend to be surrounded by lots of tall people. So that's just how it goes. It doesn't make me small. It just makes
just like to be
everyone else.
It's fine.
Just makes everyone else freakishly big. Anyway, Shadow has the next question. I don't know if you've covered this and I missed it by chance, but what are your thoughts on Returnal? Looks like an interesting game. Any thoughts?
I think I've touched on it a little bit. So Returnal is a PS5 exclusive third-person roguelike shooter. Goodness me, that is a long genre. And you play as this like astronaut woman on some crazy alien planet, and every time you die you get reborn, and it's meant to have the very like over-the-top bullet hell-esque combat, which does look quite cool. When I heard it was that, I was a bit skeptical, but then I heard that and I was like, okay. It looks a lot like Vanquish. Don't know if anyone's played Vanquish, but that was a great game and did not get enough love that I believe it deserved. But I don't really know that much about it. I think Sony would like it to be their their first big thing for the PS5, and I don't really see that happening. But it looks cool though. But it is a PS5, proper PS5 exclusive. Who's it by? It's by I'll quickly Google it. They've
House Marquee.
That's it. They've done games for the launch of PS3, PS4, and now PS5, I believe.
Yeah. I mean, there is a lull of games releasing at the moment, so it's probably well placed to do pretty well. The fact that it's it is PlayStation exclusive will exclude me. I'm not going to buy it. No. Because it's on a console, and I only do that if
it's not
necessary.
A system seller for a PS5. That's the thing. I'm sure it's going to be cool, but I don't know if it's going to have.
Not even on PS4, no.
Nope, I'm pretty sure it is only PS5. So we'll
there
see.
You go. Thanks for the question. Cool, thanks for the question, Shadow. Let's move on to
Suminda here again. Back to non-gaming related and kind of random questions. Suminda, what advice would Henry and Gaz give for getting over a breakup?
Well, sorry to if you are going through a breakup at the moment, my sympathies go out to you. My advice would be to not focus on the world outside, other people. Try and dwell too much on the breakup. Try and focus on yourself. Try and improve yourself. Look at some hobbies. Get yourself out of the house. Spend a lot of time with friends. Just put time into things that will make yourself proud, make yourself feel good about yourself, so that the crippling thoughts of what you've lost might just stop telling to overwhelm you. You will be going through a period I do sound like a counsellor, and I don't know. You will be going through periods of lowness, and then high, lows and highs. But don't beat yourself up too much when you are on a downer. Try and focus on doing something constructive and positive, and improve yourself as a person. Put some time into yourself, and then eventually you find someone else who will appreciate the time and effort you've gone to improving yourself as a person, and then you won't even have to think about what you've lost. How's that for an answer?
Well, that was the grown-up answer, the sensible answer, the long-term solution as well. It'll help give you a better person. So my answer, I'll give you the quick and easy one, which will make you feel shit immediately after doing it. Fuck someone else.
Fuck someone else. Go on a bender.
I mean, it'll feel good for a minute, and then afterwards you'll be like, I just want them back.
Yeah.
But,
maybe that works. I mean, you could try both. Let us know how you got on. Let's move on to the next question.
Right, is this me now?
Yeah.
So this person, thank you for actually showing me how to pronounce your names, because it currently reads Big P, Little P, 13533 little d, and apparently that means Appleseed. So you are Appleseed. Well, thank you for translating.
With the at PP13533.
But that's not what comes up on Discord as your name. So that's why it's missing the A.
True.
Anyway, you may have answered this before, but do either of you dabble in VR, and if so, what systems? What titles have you enjoyed, and what would tempt you to jump in? I was initially wowed by the experience, though after a while I found the cable impacted the immersion significantly and put me off for a few months. I've since invested in the Kiwi ceiling mounted cable management, and I'm getting back into it now. I find I don't enjoy most shooters or first person games in flat screen, but I'm tempted to try them in VR when on sale.
I started off on the Oculus. Not the Oculus Rift. What did I have? I can't remember the first one I had, but that was a big clunky, heavy HTC Vive. That was it. One of the first iterations of that, and then I got the Oculus Quest, which is like cable free, and it's a whole. It's a lot lighter. It's less clunky, and it's you can walk around your room and have it hands free. The hardware on it isn't as good as the HTC Vive was, but it's a better gameplay experience all around. Do enjoy VR. I've spent a lot of time in VR. A lot of Beat Saber has been played, and you have one too, right? Or we have one
between us, yeah.
Between us.
I don't play it much, but if I do, it's Beat Saber. Beat Saber's amazing. Excuse me. Beat Saber's amazing, and I always feel like I want to do it as it's a good cardio workout, especially if you crank the difficulty right up.
Absolutely.
But I never end up getting around to it. But I haven't really played much, although I did really enjoy my time with it, and I really enjoyed, I think I played Super Hot on it, which is fantastic, and that's, I feel like, the way you should play Super Hot. Playing Super Hot with a controller or a mouse and keyboard just doesn't seem right. You feel like you should be, ducking and weaving around your space. But I do want to play it more, I just kind of don't.
Yeah,
I have a hard time with space because this room is very, very small. And then we've got the living room, but then I've got to take up all that space, and my girlfriend wants to watch TV or something. So it's not ideal for my flat, really. Yeah,
it is a bit of a barrier in terms of having enough space and also excluding the outside world. I mean, you can't have a conversation when you're playing with VR. Yeah. It needs to be a solo enterprise or whatever. And the fact that my house is hustling, bustling a lot of the time with the kids and the wife running around, I can't really. Right, I'm just going to play VR for 2 solid hours and look after yourselves kind of thing. It's not entirely feasible a lot of the time, but I do like it. I do enjoy it. I played a lot of Poker Stars VR, although you don't play for real money on that. It is quite fun in some ways because it allows you to be part of a physical poker game, whereas, in times like these where you can't go and meet up with people and play an actual game of poker, it's the next best thing. Thanks for the question, Appleseed. Let's move on to Raspberry's question. Did either of you have an imaginary friend or friends? If so, how many? What did they do or you do together? Henry?
I don't believe I ever had imaginary friends, but I've always been very comfortable being by myself. I can be very, very, very introverted. I'm fine with my own company, but then at the same time, I'm happy to be around people. Well, I mean, I'm sure everyone has an imaginary friend at some point. I just can't remember ever really having anyone.
No, I never had a imaginary friend, but if I did, it would be Drop Dead Fred.
I love Drop Dead Fred.
Rick Mail from Drop Dead Fred. That was one of my favourite movies as a kid. Absolutely gem of a movie. So if you haven't seen it, Raspberry,
Watch Drop Dead Fred.
check it out, because that was my spirit imaginary friend. Let's put it that way.
Definitely. Right. Okay, second to last question. TheWitcherWiggle. When will you two troglodytes evolve into the ascended state of pineapple has a validated and legitimate place on pizza? Much love. Well, Neanderthal, TheWitcherWiggle. You can eat your pineapple on your pizza, and I will be here with my rocks and my sticks, and I will be having a much better time, not indulging in this toxic, cancerous behaviour. That's all I have to say.
Okay, I've just got to say no. I won't. So thanks for the question anyway, TheWitcherWiggle. Nice try. Let's move on to the very last question, which is Tons's. So, guys, this is for you. Only play games on consoles and only on hard mode, or play on PC and it's only the holy trinity of cookie cutter bullshit games, as in Assassin's Creed, FIFA, and Call of Duty. This is a tricky one. I will, this is kind of in response to the fact that I mentioned that I had to drop the difficulty level on Last of Us 2 when I was playing it because it was hard. I don't normally do that on PlayStation games. I've played recent ones that I've played through. I played Spider-Man to the finish on regular difficulty. I actually played God of War on regular difficulty, but upped that to hard. So it's not. I'm not just this filthy casual. Sick brag there. And then Horizon Zero Dawn I played to completion without dropping the difficulty. It was the stealth. That is it. That's the reason I dropped it on Last of Us Part 2. I sound like I'm trying to justify and defend myself here. I should probably just answer the question. I'd go with hard mode because I can do it. I'm not just playing PC, Assassin's Creed, FIFA, and COD. Fuck that.
Thank God.
I'll get used to console. I'll get used to the controller eventually. It's just that I've got my preference and I've got ways to avoid using the controller right now. So, like everyone else, I would adapt and probably learn to live with it. Let's say. Yeah.
I mean, I'd absolutely right. I'd rather only play games on hard than be stuck with playing 3 games that generally are pretty shit. Well, Assassin's Creed, I can enjoy an Assassin's Creed game, but all of those games are exactly the same anyway. So I'd just rather play them all on hard, and that's not even a question.
So let's thank everybody for their submissions for questions this week. If you want to leave a question for the podcast, leave it in the podcast questions channel on the Discord. I will pick it up and definitely answer it in next week's podcast, which will be podcast 100. And without much further ado, let's move on to the next segment of this podcast, which is called The Guy Who Obviously Didn't Listen to the Video Properly, Comment of the Week. Right, this comment was on the Outriders Rant Extract, podcast extract video, which is published to the main channel. And Codesai comments, "Good gunplay. What the fuck are you smoking? This game on PS4 has the worst shooter controls I have ever experienced." Totally broke the mic with that, but
goodness me, it's quite the reaction.
Yeah, you weren't even playing it on PS4, are you, Henry?
No, I mean
playing it on PC, and the gunplay is totally fucking different on PC too, because you're not using a controller.
Plays better on PC, every single one of them.
Because he's not using a damn controller. So he's asking you what you're smoking, but the pertinent question here is, what the fuck is he smoking?
And what did he say? Was it on PS4, not PS5?
PS4. Worst shooter
so it probably
controls
runs like dog shit as well.
The worst shooter controls I've ever experienced. It would be on a controller. I can 100% back you up on that. But you're smoking some crazy shit if you didn't pick up the fact that Henry said he's playing it on PC and he's playing it on mouse and keyboard. So maybe listen to the video properly next time before opening your mouth and letting us all know you're a fucking idiot.
A person who screams like that, they're never going to watch a video. If you've got that much power, that much passion to be like, what the hell are you smoking? That's got to come out. Doesn't matter. There's no way they will ever be able to listen to a whole video.
So there you have it. Okay, so that was a short one. We didn't have any Triggered Fanboy comments this week because people are just nicer these days. I don't know where all the bad guys have gone, but
it's because there's very little big news, so there's very little for people to get too annoyed about.
That's true. Let's move on to other non-triggered or non-stupid comments from the YouTube comments section this week. Do you have one ready to go?
I've got one here, and it's one of many. I think there's at least 3 that I've seen. This one in particular, though, is from Robbie Odom, because I think he got there first. And he's got 15 likes as well. So this is on the Star Wars KOTOR is getting a remake video from, I think, yesterday at the time of recording. Talking about KOTOR remake, but showing Star Wars The Old Republic stuff. Lol, it's not an accident. That was a semi-deliberate thing to get people to comment more. And I think, all right, so they got you. I got this one from Jace Campbell. Makes a video about KOTOR, shows only clips from Old Republic. Comments like that bug me. I'm like, do you not look and see if other people have made it? Because it's like making the same joke. I think it's really lame when people do that. But anyway, yeah, I deliberately put in the Old Republic stuff because it looks better. It's cooler. Those trailers are much more engaging to watch, and I think they're much more fun. KOTOR's an old-ass game, so a lot of the trailers are dog shit or really low res.
Yeah. So
I put in the Old Republic stuff because I think it looks better, and evidently my secondary motivator worked, because I got a couple of comments about it.
You went fishing and you caught a couple of whoppers.
Here's a longer version of the same comment. KOTOR is much different from Star Wars The Old Republic. All the video here was from the MMO Star Wars The Old Republic, I think, but KOTOR is being reimagined as something. What? He's got a hyphen and a contraction at the end. What the hell? I can't be asked to read anymore. It's just him talking about the way he feels about it. I was hoping it'd be ranty, but it's not really.
All right. Let's move on to my next comment. This is more of a discussion topic starter, which, it's always good. So let's see what we think of this. So this was on the Star Wars KOTOR video. Anonymous comments, specifically about leaks, right? He says, leaks are always good for the industry as a whole. If your game is good, you stand nothing to lose. Even if the content leaked is unfinished, people can tell when a game is bugged because it's unfinished yet, and when the game is bugged because it's made on a 2-decade-old engine for a quick cash grab, cough Bethesda cough, and if your game is trash, and then brackets, EA, Activision, Ubisoft, generic, catch all garbage, and brackets, then people will know beforehand not to buy it, and thus pushing the industry towards quality content. Do we agree with his assertion here that leaks are always good for the industry as a whole?
Well, quick, before we jump into that, I've got the other end of the spectrum, which is someone who doesn't like leaks. So this is Mihir Chitness. Why do game journalists feel entitled for game leaks? If the game is decent, say, and the publisher is comfortable with it, they can decide when to reveal it. So we've got pro-leak and anti-leak.
Yeah.
I think I suggest sort of touched on and started this conversation in the video because the KOTOR stuff, it's been rumoured for a while, and then Jason Schreier straight up explicitly said, yeah, it's real. And he's got a bit of a reputation for leaking stuff that perhaps he shouldn't have. There's question marks over that. So leaks, what I think about it is from the perspective of a consumer, right? So if there's a trailer, that's probably going to be quite cool. It's probably going to be really exciting. Like, if I got a trailer like tomorrow or next week or this summer in lieu of E3 or something like that of Days Gone 2, I'd be hyped as shit. I know that. I think most people who like the game would, especially the 67,000 people who signed the thingy.
Yeah.
But that's what they want. That's part of it. It's marketing nonsense.
Yeah.
I'm very, very cynical when it comes to trailers and stuff. I enjoy watching trailers, but at the same time, you've got to remember this is built for the explicit purpose of making me buy it and making me get excited and making me pre-order something before I've even touched it. And pre-ordering is not something I am particularly a fan of. I'm not going to tell everyone don't ever pre-order because it's your choice what you do with your money. But if Days Gone 2 comes out and it's shit, everyone's going to be disappointed because of this hype machine that was started by the marketing team. If it was leaked beforehand, it damages that marketing cycle, but I don't really believe that it damages the actual development that much. Yeah. If anything, it gives them the devs a free pass to see what people are thinking about it before potentially wasting time on building a trailer, especially some stupid CG one, which will be outsourced anyway with different assets and stuff. There's some people say that developers deliberately leak stuff, and I think there's yet to be anything confirmed that was the case, at least in the games industry. I think someone even commented that leaks are always done by the developers. And I'll see if I can find that.
Yeah, I mean, I think just picking up on a couple of things, like there are different types of leaks, right? And this was touched upon in the podcast with Dave.
Here we go. Most times leaks are part of a marketing strategy, from Smoother Than Silk in response to the comment I read out about game journalists feeling entitled. I mean, maybe these companies do leak it on purpose, but there's no evidence for that.
I mean, it would not make a lot of sense if you consider the leaks for The Last of Us 2 and if you consider the leaks for Fallout 4. Those two like completely destroyed the reputation of the game going in. Like, I mean, I think it was Jason Schreier on both occasions, right? Basically leaking a huge plot points like that is absolutely horrible. That isn't news.
Yes.
That isn't news at all. That is just him trying to win clicks, trying to win favor. Like, I mean, again, like I said, this is touched upon in the discussion with David Jaffe and the dude from
John Garvin.
Yeah, John Garvin, who we discussed earlier. They touched upon that in this topic in that podcast, and it was a good discussion. Leaks are not always good because developers who put time and effort and money into developing a product, they want to be able to control how that information about that product is put out into in public, because public perception, like the PR side of things, is huge. That's why there's so much focus on PR in these big companies. If you get the messaging wrong on a product, then it could completely destroy your profitability or the critical reception of your game or product. The fact that The Last of Us 2, this is the prime example. People found out what happened halfway through The Last of Us 2, or what happened at the very beginning, and found out like where the gameplay turned you halfway through the game, without saying any specific spoilers. People were in uproar because of what happened to a character that they had a lot of love for, and because they didn't want to play as this other character. That completely damaged the reputation of the game, and they're still feeling the repercussions of that to this day. Would the uproar have been so bad if people had gone into the game without knowing all that information about the story? Who knows? We can only speculate. I don't think it would have been as bad. I don't think it would have been as much uproar. But what it did is it took the power away from the people who were bankrolling the project, from the artists themselves who were there to try and make money at the end of the day, as well as making the art, and it's given the control. It's why would anyone want to leak that shit, for one? Like, nobody wants to leak that shit. So that definitely didn't come from people who had that responsibility. That's for sure. Maybe one of the developers or whatever. Why would you want to shoot yourself in the foot like that? If they'd known the repercussions, they would never have leaked that shit out. But anyway, I've gone on a bit of a rant here. But my point is, Anonymous, I don't think leaks are always good because...
No, I don't believe they are.
Yeah, because Jason Schreier, there are certain standards to what you should be communicating to the press. That isn't journalism. All that is clickbaiting. That is trying to you're undermining the profitability of a product that a company is putting a lot of time and effort into for your own personal gain. That is cynicism. That is you trying to do what's right for you and not considering. Everyone wants to hear it, yeah, but who's winning here? You're the only one who's winning.
I think my example was more about like announcement leaks, which I think is one thing, but story leaks and stuff like that, spoilers as well. Are just like that's out of the question and just
Horrible.
wrong. I mean, we got yelled at by a couple of commenters at the time of The Last of Us stuff because we were deliberately not doing it. I remember one guy in particular saying it's your responsibility to do it so that you're informed. We were like, well, no, why would I ruin it?
We purposely avoided it, and then we notified people when we were covering about the game before release that we hadn't seen the leaks, we hadn't. And they were like, what the fuck do you know about the game then if you haven't seen the leaks? Well, we want to experience it like the artists intended us to experience the game. It turned out I didn't fucking like it anyway, but that's beside the point. I don't want to be tarnished by the leaks. Now, this is in response to this anonymous who says leaks are always good. They're not always good for those points. However, there are some he does make good points about knowing whether a game's trashed before launch. That's good. A good reason to experience a leak or to see how the game plays. Like if you can see some gameplay before, because the way that these companies try and control the information too much, like they can go overboard a little bit too much and not show you how the game plays, but not give out release codes is the prime example. So you don't know how the game plays. Like Cyberpunk, for example, that was one of the worst ways, was they didn't give out review codes for the console versions, made everyone play it on the PC, only limited the amount of they gave them specific footage for the review code so that they couldn't film their own footage and put that in the reviews, and it was so well tightly controlled that when it blew up in the faces and people realized that they were trying to avoid highlighting the fact that the game played so shitly, that's when a leak could be really good.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's one thing Jason Schreier argues. I think he leaked Fallout 76's existence before it was the thing because it was a multiplayer that I can't really remember. But for me, it's all about is it just bullshit marketing crap? Like if it's the existence of this game and there's a trailer coming now, or like all of that, I'm deeply, deeply cynical for. But I think I kind of misspoke earlier saying that I don't believe it hurts the developers. What I mean is it screws over the people who are working on creating the thing. What I should have said is I don't care if it screws over the publishers. I couldn't care less about publishers. Because these people, leaks don't give you the full information, or they don't give you everything. Like a lot of people read the Last of Us leaks, hated it, swore off the game, didn't play it. Some people hated the leaks, played the game, still hated it. Some people hated the leaks, played the game, and they came around on it. I'm not going to say it's everyone. I know the percentages, and people on Twitter are fucking idiots anyway. But you can't make up your whole mind based on a leak, and I think that's the problem with it. Is not most people, but a lot of people do, and in some ways you can't blame them for it because you can have this instant kind of knee-jerk reaction. But people just got to remember context, and I think that's what annoys me most about the Last of Us situation. Less so now because the game is actually out, but the amount of people who jumped to conclusions, like people still believe that Abby is trans. No, she's not. She's just big and strong. Some people still believe that all of the enemies are white men, which is just factually incorrect. Mm-hmm. And this is the easiest way for misinformation to get out of hand and completely lose control. Whereas if they'd released the information the way they wanted, i.e. through the game, the response would have been wildly different. I think so. That specific example, a
lot of the misinformation comes from people's reactions, and there are three different types of people who might see or experience the leak, right? There are people who wouldn't buy the game anyway. They're the worst, right? They'll be like, oh, this game's shit. I'm not going to buy this game now. You weren't going to buy the game anyway. Yeah. Why are you spouting shit? And just say all the more negative things. They just want a reason to justify their decision not to buy the game or the fact they didn't buy the game. Then there's the people in the middle who might or might not buy the game, will take the information on, might get tarnished. Their opinions might get tarnished by other people and go with the crowd. Oh, a lot of people not buying this game, and see all these people who weren't going to buy it anyway say spouting loads of shit. That might, it's that type of misinformation. What you've got to do is look for the information yourself and judge based on your own opinion, based on the facts of the matter, not other people's opinions, and as much information as possible, as much evidence as possible, whether you're going to like or dislike this game, and make your own judgment. Obviously, the people who are going to buy it anyway, they're the third group, but they're not worth mentioning here. But I think you've always got to take the information from sources and you've got to look at as much information as possible before you make your own judgment. Don't listen to the sheep on the people spouting off on social media, because more often than not they're just people who hate it for a certain reason. Because they think
don't represent your average gamer either. Like most gamers don't give a shit about what happens on Twitter. Most don't give a shit about what happens on Reddit. They're just going to do their own thing. But as a quick final point about leaks, one of the I think good's kind of the wrong word, but necessary evil, I think maybe is a better way to approach it, is the games industry is so locked down and secretive about pretty much everything, way more than most other entertainment industries. Like music people, band members and musicians are always doing interviews, they're always doing something, or movies, there's always something going on. The games industry is very, very close to the chest, and I think that's not good. I think all of these companies should be much more open, much more transparent, especially with the community. Not just, transparent in marketing. I mean, like actually speaking to people, constantly doing interviews, constantly talking about it, and being honest, because people can see that. Even if it's like a flashy trailer will get you a few sales. Like, oh, wow, it's got explosions and fast cars and tits. Nice. But I really feel gamers are smarter than people think. Marketing companies are there to completely manipulate you. But if you just listen to a developer talk, that I think, I don't know, maybe I'm being a bit generous to the human race, but I think that's far more helpful in telling me about what a game is than some stupid trailer. Like narrated trailers, I think, are the best ones, where you get like a section of gameplay with someone talking you through each section. Ideally, I'd love to play an actual demo of it for myself. But I think they're a really great way to show what you want to and control the information without it all getting out of hand or people misinterpreting things. I just think the games industry needs to be more open and willing to talk about stuff rather than hiding absolutely everything. It's just a symptom of the way the industry is, the fact that leaks are such a big thing in the games industry. It's just how it is, because the companies are the way they are. If they maybe changed the way that they operated a little bit, these big leaks wouldn't be such a big problem all the time. But anyway, let's move on to another comment. That was a bit of a lengthy discussion. So do you have any other maybe shorter ones? I've got this one which I thought was kind of funny. It's on this segment about Activision banning a bunch of cheaters. This is from Ronin v Music. Got rolled by a party of hackers tonight. Guy's name was Wall or something. So frustrating. I want my money back. They aren't doing anything to stop it. Now, obviously that's a typo. He's saying aren't doing anything to stop it. But it really made me giggle, perhaps more than it should have. I'm such a child. That they're going to send Arnie into all these cheaters. Because we were talking about solutions, whether it's perma bans, IP bans, hardware bans, whatever. The solution is you send Arnie in to kick the shit out of them. That works. Just kick down the door and say, stop cheating. And then just bounce out. Or I'll be back. Right. If Arnold came into my room and said anything, chances are I'm probably going to do it, because he's Arnold. Like Arnie. Right. Next comment from Peter Vugs on the podcast last week. Full games without the save option and checking if active import is given would be a good way to demo games. Talking about the, I can't remember the name of the game now, but the demo that was released on Steam where... Rings of Saturn. I actually installed it and gave it a bit of a go. It didn't click with me, so I haven't played it. But the premise still stands that if you give people access to your game and then they decide whether to support it or not afterwards. But Peter Vugs obviously suggesting here that full access to the full game without the save, and then checking if there's an active input. So if you do leave it overnight on your computer on overnight, it cuts out and you've got to start again. So that stops people from being able to cheese it. You have to play it in one session, and after your session's over, you can't just leave your computer off on standby or the game quits out, which is something that works for me. That's definitely a good suggestion. Okay, I think I've got a couple more than one positive one to finish up. I just thought this one was quite funny, and it's on my extract about Outriders performance problems from Edwin. The timestamp, you have to remember that Henry was a console player who didn't mind 30 FPS, but ever since he got his PC set up, he can't go back to anything below 60 FPS, and it's absolutely right. I thought it was fine.
Henry, you've changed. You've changed. You're not the person you used to be, Henry.
I was happy eating Big Macs, and then a big slathered up, juicy steak was given to me, and now I can't taste that cardboard anymore. I can't put myself through it.
Speaking truth.
Never has anything been more accurate on this channel than that very comment.
I mean, I would, you changed. You're a different person than you used to be, Henry. But it's for the better, so I'm not going to complain. I've got my favourite comment this week was from Peter Clark, who's often a commenter on our channel, and in quotes, even this was on the 475,000 accounts permabanned extract on the main channel. To do with Call of Duty Activision. Quotes, even though Napoleon wasn't as short as some people say, end quotes. And that was Gaz. That's just something I said. And he says, this is why I watch you lads. Even your flipping comments are pedantically fact-checked. And then smiley face, thumbs up emoji. I'm also gonna else make a wild stab here, but I'm guessing you're a QI fan, Gaz. I seem to remember an episode where they debunk the so-called Napoleon complex. I don't really watch QI. I like it, but it's like a terrestrial TV thing. I don't watch a lot of terrestrial TV.
Yeah, if it's on, I'll watch it. But...
I'm just a person who picks up random facts that have no use whatsoever and just stores them for a later date when I might just be able to pull it out. So the fact that Napoleon was 5'5" or 5'6" or something like that is just something. It's one of those things that just sticks.
He's still short. But everyone was short at the time.
I'm taller than him. That's the point. That's the point. I'm 6 foot. I'm no hobbit. According to Simply Phil, Napoleon would be classed as a hobbit. But there we go. Let's move on.
All right, I've got one more here, which I think it's a bit downer. It's a bit depressing, but I just think it's. The tone I read it in my head, I think, was what made it funny. This is from Jake, and it got 5 likes on Amazon cancels Lord of the Rings MMO video. Gaming is often disappointing.
I saw that. It was good.
Just so kind of drained and deflated. And I won't disagree. Life can be a bit of a letdown, but I do have one positive one, which I will finish off with, which is by Mockingbird7504, which is on the same video. Man, I love these daily triples. Keep up the good work. Smiley face. Which is just a nice way to finish things up for me. If you've got any more. No,
I am done. I have wrung these comments dry. Let's move on to the final segment of this week, which is the bad dad joke of the week. Henry, I hope you're ready. I've got a couple.
I'm not sure I am.
I've got a couple. Okay, Tons. He contributed this. Singing in the shower is fun until you get soap in your mouth. Then it's a soap opera.
That's quite good.
Marcus Hicks contributes, Dear Algebra, stop trying to get us to find your ex. She's gone and she's never coming back.
That's the breakup advice we should have given the other chap.
That's it. And then the last one from TheWitcherWiggle. How does the moon cut its hair? Eclipse it. That's my favourite. Although it's old and it's gold, it's still the dad joke, my favourite of the week. Thanks everybody for your contributions. If you do want to leave a dad joke on the dad joke channel, the Discord, maybe I'll read them out next week and you'll get lucky. But that is it for this podcast. Thanks everybody for listening. If you do want to support us, remember to head over to patreon.com/prettygoodgaming or join up on YouTube on the main channel. And like I said, for as little as $1 a month, you get early access to this podcast, as well as to ask us questions in the Discord, as well as access to the members only portion of the Discord channel, and we'll be eternally grateful for you. So that's it. On behalf of Henry and myself, thanks for watching. We'll see you again in the next one. Until then, bye for now.